Good morning, or good afternoon.
Morning. All day.
Long day.
Really long day.
I'd like to open our special city council meeting workshop. Second item on the agenda is the discussion possible action to amend City of Guthrie Hotel Tax Ordinance number 3034. Leroy.
We've had at least 2 workshops on this topic in the past. We've discussed it at some city council meetings. We've had input from various staff members, input from motel owners, individuals involved in sports programs. Hopefully, with additional input tonight, we'll be at a decision point to finally make a decision whether we want to pursue increasing the motel tax. Stillwater now calls it a visitor tax in lieu of calling it a motel tax because that's more reflective of what it is. What we have proposed from staff is that any increase in the motel tax be earmarked specifically for sports field improvements and maintenance. We used to have the term major maintenance in there, but without defining major, I didn't want 2 years from now get into
What's that?
yeah, what's major, what's not. So we dropped that term. As we discussed before, travel is an integral part of youth sports. Families and friends are willing to make the trip to see their young competitors. Tournications is a term now. Tournament vacations are a trend. Families make it a vacation. That's how they use their vacation, is to go to these sporting events, a lot of them. Tournaments typically require overnight stays for participants, resulting in local expenditures for motels, restaurants, groceries, parking, gate fees, fuel, shopping, and cultural activities. In one of our workshops, we talked about an economic impact study on a sports complex in Hayes, Kansas, that was done back in 2008 when they built a new $8 million facility with baseball, softball fields, soccer fields, and 4 football fields. It's a different venue a little bit than ours, but they were projecting to host 38 tournaments a year, 7 for softball, youth softball, 16 for adult softball, 12 for youth baseball, 2 for soccer, and 1 for football. They projected 25,000 visits from tournament players and their guests each year, with each spending an average of $92.81. That was an annual impact projected of just around $2.4 million. The tournaments they projected to bring in the most revenue was soccer, youth softball, and youth baseball. In a survey they did, 81% of the survey respondents said a nice new sports facility would increase their likelihood of attending a scheduled tournament in that community. Stillwater, on February 8th, is voting to go from 4% to 7%. Their Convention Visitor Bureau Director believes the city of Cushing will follow suit and do whatever Stillwater does after that election. So they perceive in their discussions Cushing will be going to 7% in the near future. Edmond is also considering putting it to a vote to increase their visitor tax or motel tax. They did recently a bond proposal in October where they passed a sales tax for 1 year for Hafer Park. They didn't want to do both of those together, so they have moved back the increase in motel tax for at least 12 months until that 1 year sales tax goes off. And as we've heard from some people, the Edmond director believes their council might not want to outpace Oklahoma City's rate, which is currently 5.5, and that's one of the things they will be taking into consideration. But she's also heard that OKC's looking at bumping up their motel tax rate in the future. I put in your packet a flyer from Stillwater, a promotional piece they did on increasing their visitor tax from 4 to 7.
Where is this?
Should be, it's not in there, it was in your agenda packet. It's not your agenda.
On page
Sorry.
16.
And do I, as a citizen of Stillwater, have to pay this tax? And his response is, the tax is only paid by a person staying in a hotel, bed and breakfast, or short-term rental within Stillwater. How does it impact me as a resident? The additional 3% visitor lodging tax revenue will provide for further visitor development efforts. And they point out if the additional 3% increase would increase the rate for a $100 motel room by $3, and on a $150 room rate, it would increase the cost by $4.50. So if you go through their educational pamphlet they did, I think it explains quite a bit. In your agenda packet, we put a listing of area communities and what their visitor/hotel tax rates are as of June 1st of 2021. Eufaula is as high as 9%. There is technically no limit on what rate a city can have on motel tax. Chickasha, Enid, Muskogee, Perry, Ponca City, Waynoka are all at 8%. Ardmore, Lawton, Sand Springs are at 7%. Woodward's at 6%. Bethany and Sulphur's at 5.5%. Bartlesville, Claremore, Elk City, Midwest City, Norman, Owasso, Yukon, Atoka, Chandler, Cherokee, Durant, and Grove are currently at 5%. El Reno's at 4.5%. And Edmond and Guthrie at 4%, and Stillwater's at 4%, but taking a vote in February to go to 7%. Just explained, Edmond will probably look next year at increasing theirs. We don't know what amount they will try to go to. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Oklahoma City's at 5%, 5.5%. I put in your packet that came out the other day our tax collection history. In 2017, generated just under $202,000. In our FY18, it was just over $236,000. 2019, it was just under $210,000. 3-year average for those 3 years is $215,900. And FY20, of course, with the impact of the pandemic and other things, it dropped from 19 of 209,000 to 171,000 that year. But in FY21, it bounced back where it went down 18%, it went back up 20%. So the current budget year, or just recently ended budget year FY21, it was back up to 205,000. So it has rebounded. If we decide to call an election, I put in your agenda packet that was distributed if we want to have an election on April 5th with a July 1 effective date, started at the beginning of a quarter, give people time to make changes in their literature and different things. It would start on July 1, which would also coordinate with if we decide to let the Oklahoma Tax Commission collect it. So we would, if we're going to hit April 5th, we would need to adopt the ordinance and resolution either tonight or at our next meeting. We talked about in some of our prior workshops and meetings that the Oklahoma Tax Commission may enter into an agreement with any municipality for the collection of a municipally imposed lodging tax. Currently, and this is, Justin wasn't able to be here tonight, but some of the research he had done previously, City of Guthrie currently only collects lodging tax from hotels and participating bed and breakfast, but not Airbnbs. Airbnb corporate will not enter into agreements with small municipalities. In our case, they only deal with the Oklahoma Tax Commission. So we would start receiving visitor tax from those entities if we went with the state collection. The Oklahoma Tax Commission can collect all lodging tax from hotels, B&Bs, Airbnbs within the city limits. This is not an either-or option. If we go with the Oklahoma Tax Commission, they collect both hotels and Airbnbs. OTC has an agreement established with Airbnb, and VRBO is, they're working on an agreement with them. They would charge us a 0.5% service fee for that collection. One thing OTC does not recognize a 30-day stay limit. It doesn't matter how long you're there, you pay the tax if it's collected through the state, and our ordinance would be amended to reflect that. And the OTC would collect the lodging tax and would be responsible to manage any delinquent lodging tax. We wouldn't have to deal with that locally. Cities that are currently some examples, and I put this in your packet: Durant, Sand Springs, Stillwater currently have the Oklahoma Tax Commission collect their visitor tax or motel tax. And Edmond will start the process in July. They will start collecting their tax for them. With that, in the packet I handed out tonight, if we do this, the options we have, of course, is stay at 4. If we go, the other that we've considered is do either 5, 6, 7, or 8%. And on the spreadsheet, I've tried to round the percentages for our ordinance sake. But if we, for example, went to 6%, and all of the new revenue goes to sports fields, improvements and maintenance, it would generate an estimated $103,000 annually. And it would still generate the $136,000 for tourism and the $67,000 roughly for parks and $13,000 for admin. And we'll use what we have collected as admin to pay for the election. Typically, we don't transfer the admin money out of the hotel tax. If we don't need it, we normally use it to either supplement the tourism effort or the park effort. So typically, we don't use that as admin, but it is there if we need it. If we go to 7%, it would generate $155,000 a year for sports facilities. If you go to 8%, it would be $202,000. Before I get into details of the ordinance and resolutions, I'd be glad to answer questions at this point of my presentation. Or if you want to hear input from others.
So, on the we went through the collection part at one point where the state comes in and collects. I think mainly that was on the Airbnb side of things where we weren't currently collecting.
Yes.
What's your
and-
opinion of
and-
that? I mean, if we were to, regardless if we increase or what we do, we should probably be letting a third party collect this.
Correct. Staff would recommend that whatever we do, we amend our ordinance to do that.
It's a 0.5%, whatever it is.
Correct.
So, all right, well, that was my question.
What kind of revenue do we think we're missing by not being able to collect from the Airbnbs at the present time? I know it's a swag, but do you have any idea?
Do not have a estimate of that, but if you do a search, there's a
We got a
tremendous number of them.
We got a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot, but do we have any kind of breakdown of where the current revenues are coming from? I understand they're coming from hotel, motel, B&B, bed and breakfast, okay, I get that.
And then we
Do
do
we have a
get a few
percentage?
of the Airbnbs that on their own collect it, if I remember correctly.
But do we have a percentage of that money that's coming from the straight hotel,
I
motel
don't
versus
have
just the
that.
B&Bs?
We could look it up, but I don't have that tonight. I don't have it in front of me.
Be interesting to have that.
So the only way that we can, other than Airbnbs voluntarily doing it, the only way that we can do it is to have a larger organization, the tax commission, or a third party collect. The city, they won't recognize the city, is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Yeah.
And it also reduces some of our administrative burden as far as collecting a motel tax too, and pursuing those that choose not to redeem their taxes. That would be done by the state. So there would be some benefits there as well as collecting from the Airbnbs.
And the reason I was asking about if we had any idea of what the revenue might be is it, do we think it's a kind of a trade-off that we're paying the Oklahoma Tax Commission?
I bet it offsets our 0.5%.
Yeah.
I bet it does. Pretty
Probably
close.
maybe even more.
I bet it would.
But at least offset, you think?
Probably
You have a
Airbnbs
better
are getting
sense
more
of
and more.
the
I
numbers out
think
there.
our additional revenue would by far
Exceed it?
exceed the 1.5%.
The 0.5%? Okay, all right.
And if need be, we could take that 1.5% out of our admin portion.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be doing anything really.
Correct.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
But would the
Counsel.
admin portion really be doing at that point?
There is always things that you have to do. You have to audit everything you do. So there's some, but what we typically do anyway is the 5%. We use very little of it administrative-wise, and we just accumulate it in the fund balance, and then when we need to supplement, say, there's a year that we have a special event that's not been budgeted for under the motel tax portion, or if we need a new mower at the parks, we just supplement it from what we built up in the admin in that fund for things that come up like that.
Yeah, because that definitely more than answers Steve's question,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And I know we had talked too, when we, in previous meetings, we talked about a sports organization, if you will, that would operate the sporting venues, potentially.
Correct.
Would this money be available to them, or is it only through the city?
Of course, that's a concept in development, so I don't want to set anything in concrete. But the concept is that we would look to try to create one sports authority to be over the sporting venues, and they would collect gate proceeds,
Concession and everything.
concessions. That would be used to pay for umpires and normal maintenance, mowing, those kind of things. They would have access to this money if we needed improvements, like lighting need to be upgraded, or lighting need to be replaced, or, so it would be, these funds would be more towards the larger ticket items, not to pay somebody to mow the field, not to pay the umpires, those kind of things.
Right.
Now, that's our concept.
Yep, good one. Right,
Got anything?
anything else? No? No? Anybody in the audience?
I'll move out of the way right
It
now.
is a public meeting, so if there are any comments. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Mr. Good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Gary Good, 323 West Cleveland Avenue. I'm just here to represent the Bed and Breakfast Association and speak on the side of raising taxes. And I just, first of all, as I've said before, I love sports. I've been in sports, played Pee Wee baseball, wrestling, and all that, and I'm a big fan and proponent of kids having safe places to be and play, and love to have people come to town. So I don't want to rain on that at all. I applaud everybody that's trying to make that happen. I would just caution raising the tax to the point where we aren't competitive with Edmond. Stillwater, they're close by, but they're not as much competition to us as Edmond is. For instance, at Lazy E, the Courtyard Marriott there on Covell is really sucking the business away from Guthrie there. And I'm afraid that if we go up to a point where it really significantly makes the difference in cost, that more hotels will go up in that area and we'll lose even more business. So I just, my main point is to caution not to get to the point where we're not competitive. And the other part of it is we've lost 3 bed and breakfasts. 2 of the places sold, I think 3 of the places sold. We're in the process of hopefully getting 2 or maybe 3 more to get our numbers back up where they should be. And that would be having 7 or 8 bed and breakfasts in town. And it's really important, I think, for Guthrie to have bed and breakfast here. And as I've said in the past, it'd be real easy for all of them to just turn them into apartments and not have bed and breakfast anymore. So that's my 2 cents. I just I applaud the idea of the sports complex and certainly understand the need to be competitive financially for the city. I just wanted to represent. I know Patel, HC, is out of town. He's out of the country right now, so he's not here to discuss the hotels, but I'm sure he would be saying pretty much the same thing. So that's it.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Good? Thank you. Gary? Yes, sir.
Five-minute time limit.
Yeah.
I'll be done way quicker than that. My name is Brian Dow. I live at 4422 Buffalo Hill, Guthrie out. Both my boys, 8 and 4, go to Charter Oak. We moved to our house in 2014, and our original plan was to be there a couple of years. And within the last 2 or 3 years, my wife and I have discussed, the way the city is headed and the way the school district is headed. And we're pleased with the job that y'all are doing and the direction the city is moving and the direction that the school district is moving as well. I will say this, my dad was a coach and an educator for 41 years, 39 years in Texas and 2 years here in Oklahoma. I was a coach for 5 years here in Oklahoma as well. It's really important to invest in your kids, and I know that y'all know that. And this isn't an attack on y'all, but our sport facilities, as far as the youth sports facilities goes, are years and years and years, light years behind some of these other cities. That's not an attack on y'all, because I understand that we can't go plant money trees and money, it's not readily available for our cities and our counties and even our schools. So I know it's a challenge. And if there was other, ways to do this, I would, if I had any other ideas, I would absolutely bring them up to you. But I think it's important to invest in the kids. I think a sports complex would be a really big deal for us here in Guthrie. I don't know if you've been, somebody mentioned Woodward. I don't know if you've been up there, but their sports complex is absolutely unbelievable. It's amazing. And I think that this, would be a great thing for our kids and our community. And I think it would generate lots of revenue, and it would probably also get more kids out on the ball field. The way that, sports has gravitated, there's all these traveling teams, so I feel like city league sports fall behind, right? Well, we don't have any intentions of doing travel ball, basketball, baseball, any of that, because I don't think it's what's best for the kids. And so I would really like to see us upgrade our facilities and have nicer facilities here, not just for my boys, but like I said, it might get other kids softball, baseball off the couch, and want to participate, because some of those kids aren't good enough for travel teams, so I think it would go a long way in rejuvenating kids playing sports in our community.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Anybody else in the room?
But I would like to make a comment
Wait, man.
after he does, after Chris does. Go ahead, Chris.
Mr. Evans?
Chris Evans, 2016 Gloria Place. I just want to thank the council and Leroy as well. We, with the sports complex, wish we were turning dirt last year, but with $1 million grant that we've received, it's still going through the state paperwork and waiting for signatures to release that money to us. And then you guys, the council, allocating $1 million to the project as well for a $2 million project. As you guys learned in the past, we can use $25 million to build this complex. So we don't have that, and we're taking the correct steps that we can to build up to this process. And so with this visitor tax, it would help us with the complex. Right now, we have some preliminary work, but that right now doesn't come with a full sprinkler system or scoreboards. So this type of funding here could go towards something like that, not chalk, not tractors, or it could fall in the tractors, but for the most part, I'm thinking scoreboards, sprinkler system, stuff that would help the complex with that. There were some parents that weren't able to be here, and they sent me a email to read to you guys. I'll do that. It's from Justin Andrea Stevens, Lance and Carl Alexander, Chris and Courtney McLemore, and Rye and Christy Cherry, and between them 4, 8, 12, 13 children between them. They say, Guthrie City Council, though we parents cannot be there to support the new softball fields, we wanted you all to know that you have more support than you think, not only by those with young children currently playing in Guthrie, but those on teams outside of Guthrie. We all call Guthrie home and cannot wait for youth to be able to have a facility that they are proud of. Most tournaments we will attend, average 8 to 10 teams a weekend, with 100+ youth attending and 200+ parents attending. This brings in over 300 people in town that need to eat, need to shop, and a place to sleep. Not only will grow Guthrie youth, but as a tourism effect as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
I'd pull the, to Gary Goods that the bed and breakfast is dwindling. I think maybe the association membership is dwindling, but I said I'll stay in Guthrie any weekend in the month of June, and I have 27 options. So I think that
There's plenty out
there's
there.
plenty out there. There's plenty of Airbnb options to stay at, and I think that that's typically how people are looking to travel now. Obviously, people still stay in hotels and motels, but I think renting Airbnbs for us to be able to capture that money through the Oklahoma Tax Commission, we'll see that be a benefit to the community.
That's a big number. Councilman Guthrie, you
Well,
wanted to make a
Chris,
comment?
Chris commented on most of what I was going to say. It's Brian, right? Yeah, so I was just going to comment on him. That's part of what, the hard call is here. And Gary, it's a very hard call. We have to take little steps to be able to have your kid, not your kids necessarily, but maybe your kids' kids, you know, to be able to have what we're talking about here. And so just like the $1 million that we put out on a $1 million grant match, you know, those are hard calls because, you know, we need a lot of we need water lines and we need all this other stuff, but we put out the money to try to get, like Chris said, start turning dirt so that we can get moving on it. And that's what this is about. It's the hard calls that we have to make. But at the end of the day, it's the voters that are going to have to do it anyway. And, you know, the voters need to step up and, you know, jump in on some funding for this type of project because it's not, the CIP tax money's not going to ever get it done. It's just not. And so that was my comment. It kind of goes on the cusp of Chris and a little deeper that, you know, we got to make hard calls and do what we got to do to make things happen.
Well, I wanted to say thank you for matching the grant. That's a really, really big deal, and I know it's a hard call.
Yeah, it's a hard call.
I know budgets are tighter than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big deal that y'all did that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, appreciate that.
Well, and the other point with this whole proposition, we can spend the $2 million and have everything we want. It's a dream, but if it was the greatest and we spend that money, yet we put no mechanism to keep it funded and to keep it maintained and all of that, we're gonna peak and then it's gonna head right back down. It doesn't make any sense to spend the money and upgrade everything and then not have something in to help with maintaining it and keeping it going. And that's the way I look at this. But none of us can sit up here and raise anybody's taxes. We don't have that say-so. It's up to everybody in the community. But I think it is up to us to give the community the opportunity to say what they want. So that's, you know, we put our money where our mouth is as far as matching the grants and trying to get things rolling, but the rest of it is really up to the ball people and everybody that wants to be involved. And I think we owe them the right for them to decide. All we can do is make the option, here it is, do you want it or do you not? And let them decide. It's not really on us other than deciding to let them tell us what they want.
Well, and I think when it comes down to even looking for a hotel, I Google hotels near Lazy E Arena. The first one that pops up on Google search is Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Guthrie. Hampton Inn and Suites, Guthrie. Hilton Garden Inn, Edmond, isn't until the third one. So one, are our businesses spending the marketing dollars to draw the business there? That's their job. And two, are they providing the right experience? Because, I mean, when I look for a hotel, I'm gonna look to see, obviously these are my options, and I'm gonna look at a few pictures. Does the place look nice, updated? Does it look like the experience I want?
And
I'll
breakfast.
book it.
It's a breakfast.
Looking at their tax situation never crosses my mind.
Right. Well, I was telling Leroy, I went through, I usually use an app to book, and I went through the places we've stayed the past couple of years, and some of them didn't, they just said, here's your total bill, but some of them actually broke it down, and the smallest was 10 and the highest was 20, and that was in Memphis. Most of them were around 15%, give or take, you know, percent either way. So if we do 9 and then whatever we talk about here, we're not gonna be out of average.
No.
But that's just in the places that I've stayed, and it's in the surrounding states or maybe 2 or 3 states away. You know, they're not all here, but that's kind of just the cross section. And I mentioned this before when we talked about it. When you're looking through there, like you said, you're looking, is it nice? Is it in a slum end of town? Is there breakfast? And I don't even see the stupid tax. Well, like I said, when I went back through a lot of these, it doesn't tell you the tax, it just says room tax and all was X dollars. So I don't even know what they are. And it's the same thing when I'm looking for one. I'm looking for, does it have what I want? Do I want that $229 a night one? Or do I want a decent one for $150 a night? Or it's more about that than it is go, Well, I can drive 30 more miles and save $2. Because you don't even see that until you buy it and it's over in the end.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much an invisible
Yeah,
tax
it is.
to the purchaser.
So what is what is the total on top of it? Is it 9 and, it's not 9 and 4, right? What is the total?
That's it.
It's
Yeah,
9 and 4, so it's 13 is
Right.
what we're talking about right now. Okay, and so we just looked at this app a little while ago, and I think the average was 15 or plus, wasn't it?
yeah. 15, give or take a point either side, but that part's up for the people to say what they want. You know,
Is
really,
there,
it doesn't matter my opinion, other than,
can this, something like this go to a vote with and if it went to a vote, it would have to be with a fixed amount that we determined, right? In other words, it couldn't be
We have to determine the percentage.
That we would propose.
couldn't be a check here.
No, sir, I'm not aware of a way to do that.
Any other questions?
Well, I really
Comments?
appreciate this
Tracy?
visitor tax form Stillwater has here because it puts it in plain perspective where a $100 room would increase only by $3. If you're gonna stay in a $100 room, you don't have $3, maybe you better not stay anywhere. As far as the facilities go, I grew up playing Pee Wee sports and they were on the playground of every school in town. If you had a backstop, you were fortunate, or a field with grass on it. So, and now I have 4 grandchildren, and soccer, baseball, football, and basketball. So I've come to really respect what you're saying about the draw of the community. It's just, and Chris, your post, you're all over the country with your boys, and yeah, I can see a lot of value in the draw that would bring people and just pride of the facilities for us as citizens, so.
I just think the individual fee is insignificant to the hotel or motel user, but the overall collection could be very impactful to our community.
Well, and you're right, and the point I was making was that this is just gonna be a fraction of what we need of it. There's gonna be a lot of other hard calls that come across this shoe up here to make any of this happen. So,
Well, and I think something hasn't been talked about, Leroy mentioned it a little bit, but I think that the potential for more people coming to town associated with activities
Helps
involved
too.
with these sports, because there are regional sporting events that attract people, and many of them have to stay in hotels or Airbnbs or bed and breakfast. So there's some potential that the volume is going to increase too, to help, I guess, from the perspective of Airbnbs and bed and breakfast and hotel perspective, to help offset that increase in tax.
So build it and they will come.
When's the last time the rate was increased?
The ordinance is in your agenda package.
Oh, that was, hasn't been increased since that ordinance.
98. It's time. Everything else went up.
well, and, you know, if $2, like y'all said, is gonna be a big deal in where you stay, but then you check in and go over buy a $3 bottle of tea or something out of the vending machine, so it's irrelevant, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Now I think we just need to decide what rate do we think would be the ideal rate for our community.
That's really the next step, is decide whether we want to stay at 4 or go to 5, 6, 7, or 8. And then the rest of it will be basically filling in the blanks on the ordinance and the resolution accordingly.
My feelings are I'd love to go to 8, but I think that staying in line with Stillwater and Cushing might be more practical.
Yeah.
Which would be
7.
7.
Because you have, during football season, which just finished, but a lot of people stay in Guthrie and travel on over to Stillwater because they can't find a place over there. So when
it's
we go on
7.
vacation, we don't ever look at, I don't look at tax, I don't care.
On a $100 room, you're talking about $3.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Chief?
I'm traveling with two girls playing travel ball, and Chris and I have had this discussion, Tenny and I've had it, because his daughter used to play travel. I bet we drop $150, $200 every weekend when we go somewhere, and sometimes we don't spend the night, but we're, not only is the hotel tax, you're getting revenue there, but you're going and grabbing fast food. If we forget something, we're going to Walmart, we're going to Dollar General, we're buying gas, we're buying snacks. So not only is the hotel tax increase helping, but your overall sales tax collections are coming up because you get that many more people coming to town, and they're buying stuff when they come to town. They're not bringing stuff with them, because a lot of these ballparks, they won't let you take a cooler in or whatever, so they're running and getting stuff in between games or eating dinner before they hit the road to go back, but they're spending that money while they're here in town. And I can tell you from the parents we're with, they like coming to towns the size of Guthrie versus going somewhere deep into the metro, because it's easier to get in and out of places, the traffic's less hassle, hotel rooms are usually a little bit easier to find, they're cheaper, and they just like the experience more in these mid-sized towns versus the large towns. Like we go to Sand Springs, we go to Owasso, some of these outskirts towns, Choctaw, Harrow, we're there all the time versus somewhere in the middle of the metro area. So we're perfectly positioned, I think, to have a great tournament venue here.
Well, I personally agree with James. I would gravitate towards that 7%.
Here's another issue you have.
3% increase.
Anytime you put something to vote, unless you're gonna get out there and educate, it's gonna die. Okay?
Well, a
And
lot
so
of that's going,
the buy-in has to come from everybody. It has to come from not just us, because I've got buy-in on it,
Here's
but it
where
has
the
to come.
chamber comes into play.
But
The chamber needs to rally behind
The chamber
this.
needs to rally behind it, but also, and I know you don't want to, Gary, but the B&B organizations, everybody else has to rally behind it, because this, and people need to realize, we're not talking about building a ballpark with this. This isn't even a fraction of what we need. Okay, we've already started that with $1 million and the $1 million grant, and we'll keep going that direction. This is just a puny little maintenance portion of it, okay, that needs to increase drastically. And so buy-in needs to happen by the whole public and everybody that watches, the people that don't watch. That's the problem I see, is that there's a lot of people that don't know what goes on up here.
well,
So-
that's for a lot of people that, once it gets out there, the sports people, the parents that say, I wish,
They are gonna have to
they're
get on
gonna
it.
have to, yeah.
That's the point I'm
It's-
trying to make, because if they don't, this is all for naught.
Well, we owe them that opportunity.
Exactly.
What they do with it is up to them.
Yep.
Well, we need to put together some of the facts, like Stillwater did, that really put it in black
That's a
and
good
white.
sheet. That's a
And
good
here's what the real impact is. And here it is in writing, here it is right in front of you. It's not
But
just hearsay.
If we, forgetting just this little portion of it that assists in building this ballpark, but once we have this ballpark done and everything else, wouldn't you think that the Airbnbs and the B&Bs would be full? Because I do, honestly. You know, you got right now, just like with people in RVs, they don't even have a place to park. They're looking for places to park their RVs even. They don't have it, okay, when the Lazy E gets packed and full. So, I mean, the whole thing, that's why we need buy-in from everybody. Because the more people we bring in, the more business that you're gonna get. It's just simple as that. Because like he said, a bottle of tea isn't gonna keep anybody from getting a room. It's just not. My opinion.
In fact, I'm gonna,
Come on up.
Come on up and introduce yourself, name and address.
the address is a little tricky. I'm kind of in between. Amelia McCormick. I'm currently out by the Lazy E in the process of moving. I'm speaking on behalf of softball, and all those names that Chris read off are all of my extremely close friends. I have a daughter that plays travel softball. She also plays junior high for Guthrie softball. So I see advantages to this, both from the travel aspect and being able to entertain tournaments and bringing all those people into to the city, to the hotels, to the Airbnbs. From experience, between May and the end of 2021, I traveled from Tennessee to California with my daughter, travel. I've stayed in Airbnbs, I've stayed in hotels. To the point, it's usually the proximity to the park is where I want to stay. Because if I've got an 8 a.m. game, I have to be there at 7. I don't want to have to drive 30 minutes to get there. I need to be there quick. So I do think proximity to the place where you're having the tournament is important. To the point that this gentleman made as well about just the youth sports and increasing that and having nice facilities. I think the more we can get youth involved early, I think it also helps the school sports. Hopefully everybody's aware of how well the high school softball team did this year. The junior high is extremely talented and moving up. So there's a lot coming. The more girls and boys that we can get involved in youth sports, having local complexes to also provide for league, not just the tournaments and the travel, but just local leagues that maybe they can't afford to do travel ball, but want to participate, to have local leagues and have the facilities to do that, and not have to go to Edmond or to Moore. Edmond, I don't even know what the status of their league is right now, but not to have to go. Again, it's also going to better your school programs by having these facilities in addition to bringing in the money from the revenue, so.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick.
I agree with what you said about buy-in. I mean, it's gonna be big.
Well, she's bought in. That's the kind of buy-in I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. And I like what you said about maybe it helping the Airbnb or the bread and breakfast and the hotels.
It will.
And, you know, the grant is a huge deal. What y'all did is a huge deal. But as you said, it's gonna be a community effort. And I think that, you know, even fundraising would come into play if you wanted to have something as nice as what we're talking about, you know? So I think getting the community involved and getting them to understand, you know, some of us in this room, it would be up to us to help do that along with other parents and you know, it would take it's a community effort.
The chair of the Baseball Association will help with the fundraising. Chris?
There we go.
You passing the buck.
Little League Baseball's here too.
Got someone right in the room. Leroy?
Well, I guess it's time for y'all to make a decision.
James, was you making a motion at
Well,
7%?
No, we're not making a motion.
Oh, you're not making a motion?
That happens next
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah, that's,
But
that's,
I do think that
I think the
7%
I think the
would be,
7% is a good one.
Where are you getting the 7% out of curiosity?
just saying, not going above where Stillwater's going, Cushing's going. It's probably gonna put us above Edmond for right now, but I bet it doesn't put us above Edmond for long. Because if Oklahoma City's a 5, they'll go up too. Everything is just going up. I mean, I would anticipate that if Oklahoma City's gonna go up, Edmond will go up, and all the other surrounding areas will follow.
Well, one thing that, a point was made that she just made a minute ago was that, and I would feel the same, is that I don't want to have to drive 30 miles if I was
No.
taking my kid somewhere.
You're exactly right.
I mean, I think that's a
I'm not
big-
gonna drive 30 miles to save $3.
No, I'm not gonna drive 30 miles to save $10.
No.
I see some heads nodding.
Well, there's nothing to be done in this meeting.
No, I know, but we need
No,
to
the
have an
action
idea
items, the action
of what
items
to
are on
put
this agenda.
on the
Oh, are
action
they?
item.
Yes.
Well, then we're looking for a motion.
Do we
So
need a motion?
ordinance number 3366, there's two options. And the one that we're proposing is the option for the Oklahoma Tax Commission to collect. And so if you pass that with 7% is the amount that you increase the motel tax to, then 5% will go to administration, 18% of it will go to parks, 36% to tourism, and 41% to sports fields for improvements and maintenance. And so that's how we would fill those blanks in on the first page of the one that says the OTC collect. I would point out that the election would be on April 5th, and the ordinance would become effective on July 1, which is the beginning of a quarter, which would also coincide with the tax commission collecting it. I did,
Could you do me one favor? Could you run by those percents again if we increased it the 7%, how much of it goes to
It's,
administrative
it's on
costs?
that first page.
It's right here. It's the same percentage, it's just a dollar amount. For the most part.
Okay, thank you.
I did add, that's not in your packet, under use of funds, the tax revenue collected may also be pledged and used for public capital improvements related to the purpose of the hotel tax and to pay the debt service and cost of issuance on any notes, bonds, obligations, and or evidence of indebtedness issued by the Guthrie Municipal Authority to finance such public capital improvements. And the reason I did that is a year from now, if we get a chance to apply for another land and water conservation fund, and we can use 500,000 of this and get $1 million from them, we may not have enough collected at that point. We may have to borrow against the future revenue to get the match. So I just want to have that opportunity in there. So with that, I would recommend that you adopt the 7% amount that's been proposed, ordinance number 3366, in the format for the Oklahoma Tax Commission to collect. And I would add the caveat, subject to minor edits by city staff tomorrow as we review the ordinance. With the holidays and everything, this was put together fairly quickly, and there may be some minor edits we need to make when we review it tomorrow.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to approve
And that's option one in the packet.
on
that
option
you
one of
gave.
the
It's actually option, should be option two.
Two?
of the
Yeah.
OTC. They got it as
It's the
one.
one that, it says one, but it's actually
both
option
say
two.
one.
Oh,
Well, there's two motions here.
It's
There's
one
a
of the
motion
minor
for the
edits.
tax collection of it and a motion for the percentage for go to the
Correct.
deal.
If you adopt this, it's 7%, and the distribution I said is what we would use to fill that in. And the ordinance that you adopted is a version for the tax commission to do the collection.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to approve going through the Oklahoma Tax Commission with 7%.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, questions?
Who was the second?
John? Any other questions? All right, submit your votes, folks.
All votes are in?
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval for all those present to approve the option two of the ordinance, changing the ordinance 3366, subject to minor edits by staff to ensure that it's all legal.
And then resolution number 2022-03 is the second step it needs, and that's actually creating the ballot question. And we will insert the same percentages that we did in the ordinance in the same time period of when it would go into effect and when the election is. And again, just in case, I would recommend we adopt it with minor edits by city staff.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? Submit your votes.
All votes are in?
See the votes. Unanimous approval then on resolution 2022-03 with, again, the opportunity for minor edits by staff upon review. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our business for our workshop. And so we conclude, and we'll be back with you in about,
We can go right into the next meeting.
I don't think so.
That's what it says.
No, I think we'll wait till 7 o'clock. We'll be back with you at 7 o'clock.
Shooting things in LA is very, very expensive. And so coming to a place like this and then contributing to the economy, using the resources, going to all the stores, doing all the stuff here, I think it really, really helps out the sort of economy of the state and the city and the town that we're in, because we all get to stay here, we all get to hang out, it's great. So I think that's a really important and cool thing that's being done here and other, southern states.
Used to be.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Join with me in the salute to our flag and country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for our prayer.
Wise and loving God, thank you for all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the health we need to fulfill our callings, and for sustaining us each day. Thank you we can be involved in this useful work, and for the honor of bearing the responsibilities entrusted to us. And thank you for the freedom to worship you. You have said in the Scriptures, citizens should obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various city officials, and in particular for this assembled council, and I ask that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests and the issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a thirst for justice and rightness, confidence to do what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. Joy in this task you have entrusted to them. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Guthrie, Oklahoma. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Call to order our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting of January 4th. Second item on our agenda is community comments, announcements, recognitions. Do we have anything, Kim? No. Item number 3 is consent agenda item A and B. A is the approval of the minutes of the December 21st Public Works Authority meeting, and B is the approval of the end-of-year budget amendment number 6, moving significant numbers of amounts of money from various accounts just as a normal end-of-year process. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes, folks.
Oh, that's right.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from all those present to approve the consent agenda items A and B. Item number 4, consider and take action on, with respect to resolution 2022-01, approving and authorizing clean water loan from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. Leroy.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the mechanics, and then we have our bond counsel and financial advisor here as well that may make some remarks on the actual agreement and the loan process and answer questions. In your agenda packet, there was a sheet that looked like this. And in there, when we awarded the contract for the wastewater treatment plant back in the start of '21, we borrowed in 20 and 21, $8 million each year, which gave us $16 million. We had been building up funds in the wastewater treatment plant fund from our 3/4 cent sales tax. And at that time, we roughly had about 1.2 million. And we put some other funds together that took us to 17.6 million. The project was 20.6. For lack of better term, that left a funding gap, and we pledged existing revenue from fund balances so that we could issue the contract knowing that we would come back in 2022 to borrow the rest of the money, because we're limited to how much we can borrow each year. So the funding gap was 3 million, but we also talked at that same meeting about going ahead and borrowing 4 million. I'd kind of like to explain why that makes sense for us.
For what, to borrow 4 million?
Correct.
I think it's the city council bonuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of $1, you're gonna get $2.
Double your pay.
Yeah, double your pay.
We have to put that on the vote on April 5th. Oh, your favorite thing? TV vehicles.
If you look at the sheet that I handed out, it has to do with the CIP sales tax. And on the left-hand side, you can see that that goes through 2031. And over the life of it, even at a flat rate based on our four-year average between 17 and 20, it would generate 19.5 million. And if we have a 2% growth rate, it would generate 22 million. And our sales tax has been growing more than that. It's been growing about 7% a year. So over time, it'll probably generate more than what's even projected on here. The problem is that's fine if you pay as you go. But when you're doing projects at the beginning, then you have to borrow those funds to be able to do those projects. And if you look on the right side, of course, we're putting $4 million of the CIP 3/4 sales tax into the wastewater treatment plant. Even with what we're proposing, we will still do that. But if we go ahead and borrow the $4 million, then we will up the annual payments from CIP to make up that $1 million towards the wastewater treatment plant that we committed. We have about 1.9 million balance in the CIP fund. That will cover the $1 million that goes towards the match for the Owen Field Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. But if we get the approval for the EDA grant application for, say, the soundstage, well, we'll need 1.5. So we'll have to borrow some money. So the easiest way to do this, since our SER plan is $20 million, by doing the $4 million, it frees up $1 million to match the Land and Water Conservation Grant, and we're borrowing it at roughly 1.5% interest. And then that gives us 1.9, so we can do the we have the cash on hand to match the 1.5 for the soundstage, and we won't have to borrow that money. And so it's a pretty cheap way to get those two projects. And so what we have done on the spreadsheet, I have handed you the third page back. The financing of the Series 2020 and the next page, Series 2021, we're actually lower than what we originally projected because we've got a better interest rate than what we had projected in our planning process. So it came in very attractive. And the $4 million we borrow now at 1.54% is still very attractive. And we would borrow that $4 million. And the process or the revenue stream that we will use, which is the last sheet of what I handed out to you. Whereas before, we were putting $260,000 each year from the CIP tax. Did you not get this sheet?
I got one.
Well, it'd help if I handed out the rest of the papers, wouldn't it?
I was looking through the agenda for it, and I was going, wait a minute.
Sorry.
All right,
You gotta watch, he gets the shell game going on.
I know. Watch out. Where's the key? And I can follow you a little bit better.
And when you kept saying there's on the next page, I'm going, next page? Okay.
So what we're trying to do is find the lowest cost of money to do the matching for these various projects. Because clearly, the revenue stream's there, but it's gonna happen over time. And so we're doing the projects, not as pay-as-you-go, but we're doing them front-loaded. So now, if you look at the last sheet of what I just handed out, in the gray, we were doing $260,000 a year out of the CIP tax because we were putting $1 million in up front. Now we've increased that to 360. So our investment will be $3,865,000 out of the CIP. Plus, if you look on the green on the upper right, we're putting $500,000 of CIP money we got up front. So we are putting $4 million of CIP money into the wastewater treatment project. We're just doing it over time instead of up front. That frees up the $1 million to match the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Then we got to 1.9, we can move forward with the soundstage without having to borrow money for that, and leaves money to do our CIP street overlay project this year. And then if we get the industrial park grant, then we'll have to reconsider how we borrow funds for that match against future revenue stream. The utility revenue that will come from the wastewater treatment plant is $275,000. We have been budgeting every year more than that to go towards the wastewater treatment plant, so that funding is available. And then in the green, just like we did in 20 and 21, as those notes or bond issues retire, the revenue that we use to pay those will then be moved over to pay for the wastewater treatment plant. So that's kind of the funding format and the rationale of why we borrowed 4 instead of 3.
Well,
I'd be
plus
glad to-
money's super cheap.
Correct. So we're not going to get any cheaper than 1.5%. With that, if you have questions for our financial advisor or our bond counsel, they'd be glad to address them. Otherwise, we would be ready to adopt the resolution.
Questions from the council? We have all the brains right here in the front row. This is our opportunity. Do either one of you have a short comment to make?
Bet.
See what I'm saying?
I've done this long enough. I know if I'm looking around, looking at faces, there's not much more I can add, but the key point that was made is this is cheap money. So, take advantage of the scenario that Leroy addressed, because you obviously have a lot of capital needs in front of you. So the moving around makes the most sense for you guys. You had a 145 on your first loan, a 144 in your next loan, and this loan's somewhere in the 150 range. This is 17, 18-year money. As some of you move on and retire or have grandkids, you're not going to see this forever, but you've seen it for a while. So to get 18-year money that is at a rate, certainly now, that's lower than inflation, you're actually making the most, I think, intelligent decision as stewards of your city's money to address when you can borrow at this rate and effectively address your second mechanical treatment plant. It's a positive for the city. So and Leroy did all the discussion as far as the details. I'm not usually in this position. I'm up, and then Alan's over here, and he gets to come in and lay out a very general overview, and so this is a special moment for me. And thank you, Leroy.
Well, and the beauty of this is we've been through it all with the wastewater treatment plant,
They're
16 million anyway.
Yeah,
So,
So I guess the moral of the story is that the prayers work.
yeah, there you go.
exactly.
And
Be
so
glad
what
to
do you
answer
need,
any
Rich?
questions.
You need
You
a
have
motion on
anything-
this?
You have anything you want to add?
I'm gonna make a
Yeah.
motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in?
See the votes.
You saw how you're supposed to.
Unanimous approval then for all those present to move forward with the funding scenario that has been presented before us.
So you'll be adopting resolution 22-01.
I'm sorry. Yep. Yes, adopting resolution 22-01 for the 4.1 million. Item number 5, discussion possible action to approve resolution 2022-05, amending fees and changing policies in connection with our collection and disposal of solid waste.
With holidays and other activities, items 5 and 6, I did not have enough time to finish, so I'll move those to the next meeting.
Okay, we will
Table those?
table number 5 and number 6 until our next Public Works Authority meeting. Item number 7, consider approval to convene into executive session pursuant to Authority Title 23 for discussion of utility service agreements to new developments. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
A second, a motion and a second. Submit your votes.
All votes are in?
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to move into executive session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gone for a little bit. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to return to council and out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, switch votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to come back out of executive session into council chambers. Item number 9, consider action regarding the utility service agreement for new developments. Councilman Channel.
I make a motion, we move to enter into a 40-year service agreement between Rural Water Sewer and Solid Waste Management District Number 1 in Logan County, Oklahoma, and the Guthrie Public Works Authority that will allow GPWA to provide water service to customers located within the designated areas within the Logan County 1 boundaries as identified in Exhibit A. There's not one period in here. But in consideration thereof, the city of Guthrie shall pay Logan 1 a royalty of 5.8% of gross water revenues derived from current and future service within said boundaries.
Period.
Right. The term gross water revenues shall mean all money received from water customers' base and volumetric charges exclusive of penalties, interest, connection, reconnection, or equipment charges, and further authorizing the mayor, city attorney, and city manager to execute any and all documentation to complete the said water service agreement.
Now you know what he was doing in vacation time.
Second.
don't you?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve the 40-year service agreement between Rural Water 1 and the City of Guthrie as presented. That being the last item on our agenda, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned, and I open our City Council meeting.
In Oklahoma's state
Second item
parks,
on
we'll
our
go a little deeper,
City
burn a little
Council
brighter, and
agenda
scale
is
new
the consent
horizons.
agenda, items A, B, and C. A is the approval of the minutes of December 21st. B is the approval of the end-of-year amendment number 6. C is the approval of acceptance of small rural tribal body worn camera program grant. It's a mouthful, and I guess that's it. A, B, and C. And I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C. Item number 3, consider and take action with respect to resolution number 2022-02 concerning the action that was approved by the Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting just before this.
Correct. This is just the city side of the process.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second, but I think we have some comment.
I didn't
Comment.
talk long enough on the
Okay, you've got
previous governing
another
body
minute,
agenda.
I think.
Key thing is, as the previous 2 loans, we don't lock the rate in until 10 days prior, up to 10 days prior to closing. So when you see a 1.54% tonight, that could
Might
go
be
up.
lower.
It might be lower, might be higher, but those of you that aren't familiar with this, we won't, but we're going to basically try to, the water board meeting's on the 18th for their approval. We can very easily close that day, so 10 days before that, so we're 4 days away. We'll work with the water board, and once we determine a rate, we'll relay that on to Leroy, and you'll get to know that, but just want to be clear on that
Okay,
matter.
are you expecting it to stable or go up a little bit, or?
What do you think, Alan?
No idea.
I have no idea.
You looked at Alan.
Market's come up a little bit on 10-year in the last few days, but there's so many variables going on with equity markets go up, people get into bonds, and then that drives rates up a little, so.
Okay,
Rates have moved a whole lot.
4
But
days,
it's
it
nothing-
shouldn't be significant anyway.
yeah,
We're not talking like, significant amount, but hopefully.
but it could change.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you for that information. We have a motion and a second on the table for this resolution. Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to, or unanimous approval of Resolution 2022-02. Item number 4, discussion possible action to approve telecommunication tower usage agreement with Professional Value Internet Service. Chief, you taking that?
Entertaining questions. Basically, this is a no-cost trade agreement that will allow Pro Value, who provides wireless internet to mainly rural customers, to locate a wireless internet transmission tower on top of our Job Corps water tower on the west side of town to serve Cedar Valley and some of the other areas out west. In exchange for that, they will also provide free wireless internet to any city facility that needs it, which we think the new wastewater treatment plant may very likely take advantage of that. And it will also allow us to move our current VHF radio repeater that most of the volunteer departments use that are dispatched by our communications center, and it's our backup radio system from the tower it's currently located at in the south part of the county over to an area northeast of here, which will better serve the geographic area of those using that radio. So there's no money changing hands here. It's basically, we give you that, they give us free stuff, and
We get better service.
do what? Sorry.
Police cruisers, Wi-Fi and everything?
No, it's more home,
This is a line of
home-based.
sight.
Yeah, it's like AtLink, if you're familiar with them, it's exact same kind of service. But with the wastewater treatment plant where it's at, we don't have Cox that far out, so it will give them internet capability out there until something else comes available.
Okay.
We're currently, just as information, we currently pay, this year, I think it's $4,200 a year to lease the space that our radio repeater is on now from OSU. And that goes up with a CPI increase every year, so it's continually going up. So this will allow us to completely get rid of that fee that all the departments share every year.
Even more of a win-win.
Sure.
Yeah.
It truly helps the volunteer departments out because they have limited funding anyway, and they're having to pay for that every year. So this is an opportunity for them to get it for no charge.
Good. Any questions of Chief? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, folks.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval for all those present to approve that telecommunication tower usage agreement. Item number 5, discussion possible action regarding Resolution 2022-06, revising the purchasing policy.
Table.
That's,
It's the same as the, it's just the
Oh, sorry.
city side of it.
You have no HR person?
this is. Okay, we're tabling number 5. Number 6, agenda item number 6, city manager report. Are you tabling that too?
Yep,
I've talked all I want tonight.
we're done, Steve. Mayor.
Item number 7, comments from members of the city council. Councilman Guthrie,
Happy New Year, and that's it for me.
Councilman Channel.
We got a new year here, don't screw it up. That's all I can tell you.
Councilman Williams.
I'm not gonna screw it up. No comment.
Councilman Taylor.
Staff, that was great. I appreciate everybody. You guys all put in a lot of work on this. And you guys did too. I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you, Leroy. I'm glad to have you back from vacation. So, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, you don't get to take vacation very often.
Councilman Long.
Yeah, new year, so let's make it a good one for the city. And Leroy, I don't care what Chris Evans says about you. I think you did a great job tonight, and I think we moved a lot of bars tonight. So anyway, appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you.
For sure. Again, Happy New Year. You know, I tell you what, folks, if you had a chance to see the sunset tonight, if that's an indication of our new year, we are golden. I mean, it was just awesome. I think the prayers were there too. So, Pastor, you covered a lot of territory. Just a quick note. I mean, we had, I think, a really, really good year considering all of the noise that was going on around us. We as a community have come together, I think, in many, many ways. Accomplished an awful lot of things that people in this room can be very, very proud of. Staff at this city can be very, very proud of. Citizens can be proud of. I'll tell you what, folks, next year, this new year, is looking like it could be even better. And I think that's a reflection on the staff, that's a reflection on leadership, and it's a reflection on the buy-in of the community. We'll look forward to more of that in this year. But I think we've made some great strides forward and are continuing on a really, really good path in 2022. So congratulations. With that, ladies and gentlemen, adjourned our city council, and we have one more.
What do you mean?
Economic development.
I'd like to call to order our special Guthrie Economic Development Authority meeting. We have item number 2 is the consent agenda items A and B. A is the approval of the minutes of the special Guthrie Economic Authority meeting of December 7th, and B is the approval of the fiscal year 21, budget year amendments number 7. I'll entertain a motion.
Moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilman Bothroyd, any discussion?
No, sir.
Okay, submit your votes.
I'll vote Strand.
See the votes. Unanimous approval of consent agenda items A and B. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned for good for the night. Thank you.